Good fucking lord, Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 have taken over my mind. I have been theorizing on all this shit for the past few weeks and watching videos and discussing theories with others, and woo boy, can I just say that to me, this is all part of my blind playthrough of the game because I'm having so much fun theorizing dumb shit that is probably incorrect, and I'd like to think lots of smart shit that is definitely correct. The fact that I'm making this video is honestly a huge testament to that because I've never done something like this before. But frankly, I want to throw my hat into the ring before someone else comes up with all this and takes all the credit. And if that's already been done, shut up, I did it first. So, with the new chapters, we've been equipped with a cavalcade of components for our conspiracy cocktails, and boy have they shaken things up. Anyway, it should go without saying, but there are going to be a ton of spoilers in this video, and I'd recommend playing the game yourself first before watching this video. With that out of the way, the first big thing that's been on everyone's mind is the knight. Yeah, hi, you're here now, and you're kicking our collective asses. That's a lot of ass cheeks, like over 1 million. How many copies of Deltarune have been sold? Multiply that by 2, and you have your cheek number. God, I should just get to the point already. So the knight is the main subject of this video. I'm going to be covering some of the other stuff as well, but mostly because I believe it ties in with the knight. So first we look at the knight. It's very final bossy in its design, but, and I'm sure if you're watching this, you've already heard this pointed out a cheek number of times, the knight has antlers, like reindeer antlers. The knight also appears in a snowy area with a big Crimblow tree, and something about a north wind and snowflakey attacks. Look, the fandom has basically agreed at this point that the knight is a member of the Holiday family. The current debate is whether or not it's Carol or Des, but I'm quite confident in my side. It's Des. As far as I can tell, this is the current leading theory, but I haven't seen much delving into the stuff surrounding that. So, to start off, I'm going to present 7 questions. If that's Des, why is she hiding from everyone? Why the fuck does the knight look like something from a nightmare? What is Carol's deal? Why won't Kris let us see the code? Why does Asgore have a black shard? Why did Kris create a dark fountain in their house? Why is the knight kidnapping people? So, I'll start with the first 2, and I can answer the first one with the second. Every time we've seen a lightener in both the light and dark worlds, there's a bit of change in coloration, and they sport a different outfit, but otherwise they are very clearly the same person. Why is the knight different? Well, what if it isn't? What if that's genuinely what they look like? We've already seen in Undertale that some pretty freaky shit can happen to a monster's body. What if something in that vein happened to Des as well? I mean, really, it would be completely reasonable to hide from everyone if you looked like a rabid voidling. I'm also going to address something here because I know someone is going to mention it. There's a popular point people make about Des being left-handed and the knight being left-handed. The knight holds their sword in their left hand, and Des's computer mouse is on the left side of her keyboard. I don't think this argument holds any water. For one, when fighting the knight, they hold their sword in their left hand only when they're idle or casting a spell. They swing the sword in their right hand. For another, Noelle's computer has the mouse in the same position, and same with Azrael's computer, and 3 of the 5 mice in the library are on the left side of the keyboard. This is just how the computers are sprited, and I'm certain it is not indicative of anything at all. Now, let's talk about Carol. Chapter 4 goes out of its way to make her look like the villain, and also to make it look like she's working with Kris. Kris is talking to someone on the phone, mentions the guitar and Susie, and the voice says, "I'll be right there." And then she just so happens to show up immediately after Noelle says she won't be home for a while. Is she really the one on the phone? I'm going to go with yes on this one. And to explain why, I'm going to talk about Des some more and attempt to answer questions 3 and 4. So, supposedly something happened to turn Des into Dark Rumble Chopper, but I don't think this is a secret from everyone. I am sure that Kris knows, Carol knows, and potentially Asgore as well. Kris knows based on their actions in chapters 3 and 4, and potentially the end of 2, but I'll touch on that one later. In chapter 3, both Kris and the Knight appear to be holding back against each other. There's obviously a reason for this, and the reason must stem from the Knight's identity. Namely, that Kris knows who the Knight is, and the Knight knows who Kris is. Additionally, we should take into account who takes action in this fight. When the Knight is about to abduct Kris's own mother, it is not Kris who stands up to protect her. It's Susie. Susie initiates the fight. Susie is the one who talks back to the Knight. Susie is the one who keeps fighting even after she's fallen. Susie is the one who chases the Knight, dragging Kris with her all the way to the shelter. The only things Kris does of their own volition are, if you win against the Knight, fake their own defeat, and if you beat the Knight without taking any damage at all, cough at the enemy. At the end of the chapter, when Susie leaves the area, the shelter door opens for Kris, suggesting that whoever is in there invited them. There was probably a discussion in that shelter between Kris, the Knight, and anyone else who may have been involved between chapters 3 and 4. Also, when you first encounter the Knight in chapter 4, you can actually reach them. If you do, Kris will simply stand there and wait to be hit, and at the end of chapter 4 there's a closet Kris will refuse to open, presumably because the Knight is hiding there. So all this leads me to believe Kris is helping the Knight. They wanted Toriel to be abducted, and they wanted the Knight to get away. They're also protecting the Knight's identity, which would explain why they seem to be trying to prevent both the player and Susie from seeing the code in the guitar. If they called Carol back home to get Susie out of there, that points to Carol being in the know about the Knight's identity. Both of them are trying to protect the Knight's identity, and this only makes sense if the Knight is someone they're both close to. The Dreamers and the Holidays had a very close history with each other. Chapters 2 to 4 are very clear about this. So, both of them have an established connection and therefore motive to protect Des's identity at any cost should she be the Knight. So far, this is all hinged on the assumption that, in the light world, the Knight also looks like dark matter and a reindeer had a baby and dressed it up like Mettaton EX. So I'm going to point out why I think the Knight just has a really messed up body. When you first see them, they're visibly drooling. That tells me they're either physically unwell, mentally unwell, or both. Carol sure seems sinister, but not unwell. Noelle, well, you can make her unwell, but normally she seems perfectly fine. Also, it's worth noting that both of them are at home when you enter the Cathedral Dark World, and you encounter the Knight almost immediately. And Rudy, okay, I can see a universe where Rudy is the Knight. He is sick after all. It would be a hell of a twist, but he is in a hospital. Not exactly an easy place to keep a low profile. Now, probably the most common counter-argument I've seen to Des being the Knight is that it'd be too predictable. I do have a few thoughts about this. For one, way back before Undertale released, when all there was a demo of the entire ruins, and r/Undertale had a population of only about 50 people, there was a lot of theorizing about Asgore and Flowey, and the player, and, well, a lot of things got predicted. All we had back then on Asgore was a name and a silhouette, which gave the same sort of implication that the Knight does. So, Toby Fox has a history of playing this card. Now, I know one could argue that he's taking advantage of that fact to make this a more effective fake-out, but... And here's what I think might be my most outlandish claim. I don't think the Knight's identity is meant to be a big twist. There's still a lot of other things we don't have answers to that could very well be bigger twists. The Prophecy, Gaster, the Vessel, Rousey, Angel, what happened between Toriel and Asgore, and who or what is causing the roaring. Yeah, I've checked, there's nothing in the Prophecy that states who will cause the roaring. The Knight could very well have absolutely nothing to do with it. Of the prophecy we've been shown, this is the only part that refers to the night.
The night which makes with blackened knife shall duel with heroes, strife by strife.
In other words, they show up in the prophecy as many times as Lancer or Jockington. So to recap, Des is the night, and she's Glooby. She lives in the shelter, and Kris and Carol are protecting her secret. This is all the stuff I feel confident about. Now, we're going to delve into the uncertainties. Like Asgore. Chapter 2 tells us he used to be a police officer, but left the force. The Dreamer family split. He's now living on a dime and doing favors for Carol, and he has a black shard? What's up with that? Well, I think it all ties back to Des. I don't know if he knows what happened to her, but he has an evidence board in his shop, and can be found examining one in Carol's room. He's looking to prove something, and I think it relates to Des. And Carol is financing it. According to my theory, it couldn't be finding Des, since Carol would already know that. So I believe he's looking into what happened to her and why. And Carol is financing it in the hopes of finding a way to undo it. It may be why he has that black shard. That's all I really have about him at this point, and I'm not sure how much more can even be gleaned without more chapters. As for Kris's actions at the end of Chapter 2, they created the Chapter 3 fountain after slashing those tires and opening the door to the outside. Why? My best guess here is that they did this so the knight could kidnap Toriel. I'm still not entirely sure why this kidnapping was necessary. Maybe it has something to do with a boss monster's soul. I think the knight switched targets to Undyne at the end of the chapter simply to silence a witness. But Toriel was their real goal, and that's why the Chapter 4 fountain happened where it happened and when it happened. The tire slashing may have been to keep Susie over, so they could have some fun in the Dark World while the knight took Toriel. I won't lie, this part doesn't really make much sense to me in any context right now. Honestly, it's a big part of the reason why I made this video. Maybe others will see something I didn't, maybe something will completely debunk my entire theory, maybe something else. That's all part of the fun of theorizing. So, I've made my case here surrounding the knight and their motives. I've sat on this for a few days and feel pretty good about what I've shared, but I'd be a fool to think I've got it all figured out. Look, this is just fun for me. With every prediction I've made, I'll either be right and proud of it, or I'll be wrong and pleasantly surprised. It's a win-win. Anyways, if you like this video, leave a like. If you subscribe this video, leave a subscribe. And please, tell me your thoughts. I love discussing this stuff. Thank you for watching.